My name is Dr. Adam Manley, and I'm an Associate Professor of Workforce Education and Development at Western Michigan University. Across the nation, states and commonwealths are dealing with an incredible shortage of CTE teachers, career and technical educators. As a result of the teaching shortage, many states, including Michigan, have relaxed teacher certification rules in an effort to entice business and industry professionals to become CTE teachers. However, even with these lax rules, not enough business and industry professionals are making the transition into teaching. Teacher education programs like the one that employs me at Western Michigan University just can't get enough people to fill the need. I believe this is partly due to the uncertainty of what it's like to make such a drastic change in professions. Unfortunately, it can be hard for working professionals to fully understand the pros and cons of becoming a teacher. Therefore, I decided to interview 8 CTE teachers from 2 different technical centers in Michigan. These teachers made the transition from the workplace to teaching. I asked them questions related to the transition and what they liked and didn't like about teaching. I hope this video will help working professionals understand what it's like to become a teacher. Please stay tuned. As I mentioned before, I interviewed these 8 teachers. Each of these teachers has a story to tell regarding their transition. In addition, they have shared some great insight into what it's like to be a CTE teacher. But before we get started, I wanted to highlight the 2 technical centers where these great teachers work. The first one, the Muskegon Area Technical Center, is located in Muskegon, Michigan, and is a 73,000 square foot training center that has programs and classes in allied health and technology, collision refinishing, auto service technology, catering and culinary management, computer-aided design, construction trades, cosmetology, criminal justice, electrical and computer technologies, environmental and veterinary sciences, graphic production technologies, health science academies, internet network and security technologies, machining and engineering technology, and welding technologies. The Traverse Bay Area Career Technical Center, located in beautiful Traverse City, Michigan, serves 19 different high school and over 1,100 students from 5 counties. They have 23 different programs, including many of the ones I've already mentioned. If you're unfamiliar with technical centers, I truly encourage you to Google these, as they are shining examples of how great the technical center system in Michigan is. Both of these, as well as all other technical centers, are very well funded and well supported and are ready to meet the needs of industry, their students, and their community. Also, I would like to point out that regardless of your profession, there is a technical program most likely related to it. So there are probably teachers teaching what you do. Now it's time to meet our teachers. First, we have Julie Gauthier, who is a business career teacher, Kathy Van Til, allied health instructor, Susan Ream Westhoff, internet and network security, Kevin Kimball, automotive technology, Tim Vandermeulen, electrical occupations, Marshall Lystra, automotive technology, Daryl Collins, culinary arts, and Jared Diephaus, power equipment technology. Each of these teachers made the switch from either military service or business and industry to teaching. I sat down with each of these teachers and asked them a series of questions regarding their choice to become a teacher and what it is like to teach their profession. The first question I asked many of them was, why did you become a CTE teacher?
I mean, it took me a long time to really to bring that dream to fruition, but I really wanted to help other people, and I wanted to give somebody else what I had been given by my culinary arts instructors in high school.
Well, I was really interested in coming in at that entry level for students and really exposing them to all different healthcare careers. Having worked in healthcare for so long, I really wanted students to understand that it was more than just my career. I wanted them to understand the connectedness of all the healthcare careers. So this was a nice entry level. I thought was a great entry level position to have some influence on showing them that they didn't need to be a doctor, they didn't need to be a nurse, they didn't need to get a PhD, that it was okay to get a certificate, to be, that we're, in Michigan, we're really hurting for CNAs, medical assistants. So degrees that are, certificate level all the way up to the doctoral degree.
For me, there was very little fulfillment anymore in working on stuff. It just, not that I'd done everything, but it was a lot of repetition, and it's hard on the body. I had a lot of issues with my hands and elbows from wrenching for many years. Ergonomics was not very popular when I started. You just did it. And so both my parents were teachers. My mom retired as an elementary teacher. My uncle was a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. I saw them in the summer having a good time. And I like it. I always enjoyed working with kids. I worked with youth volunteering before I ever thought about becoming a teacher. And so I wanted something that was a little more fulfilling. Working on stuff just, it's great. You get it running or you fix whatever it is, but it didn't really do anything for me. As far as mental stimulation, it was just really boring. So I looked at my available options, and I was 34 years old, and I said, I'm going to do it. And so I started college when I was 34.
Since all the teachers I interviewed used to work in business and industry, I figured I'd ask them if they noticed any differences between working in business and industry and teaching.
Well, some of the basic skills that I have in accounting actually apply to the classroom. I have to be organized as an accountant, so I do as a teacher. I don't think I would be the same teacher if I didn't work out in industry, because I can look at the textbook and say, okay, this is how they say to do it, but in industry it may be done a little bit differently. So I think I'm a better teacher because of that. There's not a ton of differences that you think that there might be with business and teaching. I treat the students like adults because they're 11th or 12th grade and they're going to be entering the workforce. So I treat them like adults and they act like adults.
The actual amount of automotive technology that I'm using on a daily basis is minimal. You kind of go through all the ASE certifications and you get all this training and you do all these engine overhauls and I'm on board with all this new technology and then you get to the high school level and all of a sudden it's very basic, but not so much that as the amount of classroom management and school bureaucracy that you're dealing with and working with and understanding how that works. That is the job. That is the job of teaching, and that's kind of one of the things that I see. I've been here for 9 years now, and I see a lot of people from business and industry come here thinking, I know all this stuff, I'm a great welder, I can do whatever, and then they completely fall apart. They're pulling their hair out because the kid, they haven't learned the classroom management side of it. And once you can get past that, then the job is a lot more rewarding. But that was a hard thing to get out of that mindset, especially in the automotive industry where you're used to, the car's got to be done. We've got to get it done. Someone's got to drive home tonight. This thing has to be done. We used to work on the model where customers would come in or somebody would come in, and it was kind of that apprenticeship. Career Tech Ed has always been kind of an apprentice-based thing. So we would bring cars in, and I would basically work on them and show the kids how to do it. Well, inevitably something would go wrong or something would break or I'd have to do something off the lesson and then we'd have to wait for a part or something like that. And all of a sudden I had kids that didn't have anything to do. And after school, I'm still fixing the car because someone's got to get home. So, at some point I kind of had this epiphany or this moment of clarity that I'm doing this totally wrong. And once I made that shift and started focusing on actual education and that whole system of how to educate a group of students, then it really started to click. And so that was the hardest part.
Compared to the industry, there were deadlines and there was stress. I was in the IT industry. I worked for a company that was busy acquiring smaller companies, and we had to quickly get them up online and 70 hours a week. But if something didn't go well, it was just a computer program. With teaching, you feel every day like the bell rings, if there is a bell, and all of a sudden there's 25 little faces staring at you. So there aren't days where you can have good days and bad days. I mean, you do, but I just always felt much more ownership. I mean, not that I didn't have ownership to my projects, but when there were kids involved, there's just more, it's also more rewarding because of that. You just feel like your actions and what you get done today influences more than just an end product because it has to do with a child.
Next, I asked the teachers, was it difficult to transition from business and industry into teaching?
The transition to teaching was very difficult. It was, it's just figuring out how the whole school system works. When you're in industry, it's pretty clear who your boss is. I mean, we had, they'd bid a job and they'd say, all right, this is going to be your project, you're going to manage it. This is what we got into this bid. These are some ways that, I think you should go about doing it, but really it's all up to you. I would find myself the first year here laughing. It's like, gosh, I don't even know who my boss is. I mean, I have all these people coming to me and saying, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. And then I had a paraprofessional who had been here before me, and their common response always was, well, don't worry, Paula can take care of that. You don't have, she knows how to do that. Well, just don't worry about it. She knows how to handle that for you. And I'm like, no, I'm the person in charge. I need to know how to do all of this. So that's probably the hardest transition part, is just understanding that there's a lot of people that are going to be nicking on you for your time and putting demands on you. And that hasn't gotten any better. That even after 16 years, I still am like, wow, where did this all of a sudden come from?
But the other thing was also understanding what all the students are going through to be able to find ways to get past their challenges and to help them learn. You also have to think about the fact that you're not always creating mechanics, you're teaching them skills, even if it's just life skills or in this industries. So when you're at the workplace, you're teaching them to make them better and better mechanics and stuff like that. Well, most of those adults understand life or getting to that point. Teenagers have no idea or think they have ideas. So you have to work with that. So trying to take your step back and start from the beginning and see what they have and what they don't have. And some kids take it right instantly, and some kids, they, even after a year or two, still don't know. It's just, they're all different.
The difficult thing would be learning about curriculum and learning that part of being a teacher. That I think some people that transition from the business world to the education world, they don't realize how difficult that is. That it's not just stand up there and give your dog and pony show every day, but it's also being able to make sure that you are, following the standards, that you're hitting the things that they need to be able to do. So I think that's a difficult transition. If somebody comes in from business or industry and comes into the CTE world, it's very difficult, if you don't understand that there is this curriculum, there is this structure that you have to follow.
For the next question, I asked them to explain some of the more difficult aspects of teaching.
Well, every day is difficult about teaching. A teacher's job is never done when it comes to learning, when it comes to refining best practices, when it comes to collaborating with other colleagues to figure out how to get over some of these hurdles. Because once again, the job that we have is very, very difficult, but then on the other side, it's very gratifying too.
But we get kids that have a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be dealing with at their young age, and they can't leave it at the door when they come in. So for them to try to focus on your curriculum when they're worried about where am I going to sleep tonight, or when is my next meal, that's a very real situation and issue. And, it's hard to get beyond that. I always keep food.
It's the unknown. I think every teacher starts out, especially as a second career or third career adult, and they have an idea in their mind of how things are going to go. They're going to set up this really great plan. Everybody's going to follow it, and they're going to learn. And that is absolutely not how it works. most of the time. Sometimes it goes great, but other times everything seems to happen that it can to derail your day and derail your plan. And, it can really shake your confidence. And depending on, especially as a new CTE teacher, coming over as an adult, how good is your team? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a strong administrative team? Do you have somebody that you can go and talk to and just shut the door and melt down? Because some days we all do. And I don't care who you are, how tough you are going to have meltdown days. It happens.
I asked the teachers if they could give one piece of advice to new CTE teachers, what would it be?
Really take a big look on the commitment that you're going to have to make. It's a big one. There's a lot more education that's going to be involved. In order to be a certified teacher, a bachelor's degree is a minimum. Most automotive technicians don't have that. It's just not a requirement for that job. So taking a big look at what that's going to take, because that's going to be a commitment, and understanding that, but also understanding that it's worth that. Most districts will also provide, some will do tuition reimbursement. There's all sorts of different ways to make that not such a bitter pill to swallow, but understanding what you're getting into. And I think that's part of the biggest problem that we have with the shortages that we have, is that our industry, and not just the automotive industry, but welding and all these other industries out there that have the shortage, aren't set up for the 4-year university kind of a student. I happened to just kind of get lucky because I was going to do something else, and then that degree counted for this. But understanding that difference and understanding what to expect would be the biggest piece of advice. But if you enjoy the mentoring process, or that you enjoy working with new employees in your dealership, this is very much on par with that, if not even a better feeling, when you're mentoring these young people and molding young minds, doing all that. It's great fun.
I would recommend definitely that they either visit a local high school or the tech center and actually see a classroom. I had expectations going into the classroom that when I got in, it was quite different. The students wanted to be there. I didn't know what the student engagement was going to be like. It was quite a pleasant surprise for me, but most schools are very open. They would let people come in and shadow a class. That would be my greatest recommendation.
I would definitely say spend some hard time, even if it's a T-chart on a piece of paper and a pro-con column, and ask yourself why you want to teach. And if it's about the schedule, if it's about the money, that's probably not the right reason. If you're trying to adopt a schedule that allows you to spend more time with your kids and you think you might be good at it, I would encourage them to do some more investigating and some job shadows and things, because it's not easy. And if your heart and your head are not in the game, it's going to be rough. And it's really hard to do this job well, even when you are 100% committed. But if you're not in it, you're going to falter.
I would say definitely try to get some background in teaching. If they came from their trade and had no background in education, having been here for 3 years and seen some people that didn't have that background, it's tough, and you can see it's a tough transition. For me, it was a little bit easier of a transition because I did have that background of curriculum building and all that. But that's a tough transition. So I would say teach a teaching class. Try to get some, or talk to a lot of teachers. Get a teacher that's been in CTE for a long time to mentor you.
The last question I asked the teachers was to tell me what was the most rewarding aspect of being a CTE teacher.
Oh man, I love the relationship with the kids. I love teaching teenage kids. My wife teaches elementary, K through 12, but she teaches elementary kids, and she can't do what I do, and I could probably spend a couple days teaching elementary kids, but the way I teach stuff, I'd have a bunch of crying little kids. But I love that you can look right through a teenager. They completely put up their walls, but you can look right through them, and you know what's going on in and out. Probably after 2 weeks, I can easily tell what their mood is, what's going on at home. You know, you can look at me like, you got something going on today. You know, you can tell me. In the first week of school, I tell everybody, I'm on your side. I will back you up. I'll protect you as best I can. You need to be absolutely upfront. If you're having a cruddy day because of certain situations, you need to tell me as soon as you walk in, because I'm going to look at you and I'm going to go, what's going on? Because something's going on, and you keep throwing that nothing attitude at me. I'm going to keep going, well, something's going on because you're snippy or whatever. I love that connection with them, and that, like, their last day of school, you can see that because they'll walk right up to you, shake your hand, and be like, I'm going to come back and see you. If they say that, or if they have that whole attitude, it doesn't matter if you taught them how to read and write. It just sends it over the top because you have a relationship. You have somebody that they can trust, and they'll call you up for advice or come in and see you and be like, I got this going on, can you help me? And you're like, of course. You know, and some kids don't have parents at home, so, or they do have parents, or, you know, the lost loved ones, and they just need somebody to, and this is their place. And that was it like that for me when I was a student.
The reward comes at the end when the kids get the jobs and they get the certifications, and then they come back years later or the next year. Or I go out to one of the dealerships in town and I run into an old student who says, oh yeah, you know, this is great, I'm loving what I'm doing. You know, that's that moment that all the teachers look forward to. You know, it doesn't really happen. I don't think it happens as much in, you know, to history teachers as it does to an auto shop teacher. You know, to actually see that direct impact from your class to what they're doing now is pretty cool. Yeah.
So for me, the most rewarding is when you see those students. I can tell you, I see them around town here. I mean, our town here in Traverse City is not that big, so you see students out working. You see them at the wholesale house. We've got a kind of a program Facebook page where, you know, kids kind of keep track of one another, and you see some of the things that they're doing. And I've got students who've, you know, got great careers, and now they're having children, and, you know, they write a check for their house, they pay cash for their house, and, you know, they have more and nicer vehicles and things than I have. So you get a lot of satisfaction from that. I also, I have to be honest with you, I know more now about the electrical field than I ever knew as an electrician. The old adage, you remember 90% of what you teach to somebody else, is very true. So my knowledge has only grown exponentially because I've been here teaching.
But that's a very gratifying thing to take a kid who has nothing and give them a passion and see them have inspiration in their own life. Unequivocally, the best thing that could ever happen to a teacher.
And there you have it. 8 perspectives of what it's like to make the transition into teaching CTE from 8 high-quality CTE teachers. I'd like to thank Pat Lamb from Traverse City and Kyle Fiebig from Muskegon for letting me interview their CTE teachers. I'd also like to thank you for watching and hope that you make the switch to CTE. We desperately need you.